Welcome to Prepare For Takeoff. I'm the creator and host, Terry L. Cyrus. We're the podcast dedicated to amplifying Black excellence. Every week, we sit down with a proven professional or rising entrepreneur. And this week, we're sitting down with founder and CEO of Briclyn Entertainment, Anshia Crooms. Anshia, what's going on?
What's going on, Terry? How are you?
I'm good. As they say, blessed and highly favored.
I always say blessed and highly favored. I typically actually start my conversations that way. That's so funny.
Absolutely. Look, great minds think alike. Shout out to you and all of what it is you're doing. We have a lot of shared interests. You work in entertainment, music in particular. That's where I got my start. You're also a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
That's
Shout
right.
out to the Deltas. As you know, I'm a proud member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. So we have that bond. Definitely have history together as far as having known each other for an extended period of time. I've had the honor and privilege of watching your ascend as you continue to do your thing. I want to give you the opportunity to share your story so that you can allow our viewers and listeners the same insight that I have about how and why you are the embodiment of Black excellence. You're from Maryland, correct?
I am from Maryland. That's correct.
I believe you're a proud alum of Bowie State University.
Yeah, so I went to Bowie State University, the oldest HBCU in the state of Maryland. I also attended the New School in New York City, and I have a master's in media studies and film and an undergraduate degree in broadcast journalism. So I know a little bit about the space that we're in right now.
You know, a little something. I'm going to rewind it back to your days at Bowie State. I also attended a HBCU at West Virginia State University. So what impact did attending an HBCU have on you and the woman that you are today?
Oh my, I mean, I really think that it shaped my foundation of who I am and how I carry myself in this world. My parents are also HBCU alums, so just seeing the Black excellence that was in my household made me want to embody the spirit of who they are and who they are to me. So I think Bowie used to have a tagline when I was in school called Preparation for Life. You would see it around school all the time. Every time you were going into a class, we started with that Prepare for Life. And so as I got older and understood, like, you really are prepping for life. And so for me, there's no space in this world that I can walk in, that I can't walk in and not feel like I do not belong, because the teachers and the people at a HBCU who look like me embody that, you know? And so for me, I walk into any room proud with my head up because we were taught to do so. And then even going to the New School, which is predominantly PWI, but it's a very big liberal arts school in New York City. It was just like, you know, I had the best of both worlds. But even now, like, my network is still very strong because of the relationships I built at Bowie State University. And so for me, it just embodies of everything that I do at Briclyn, who I am, the people that I hire from my company. I'm big on reaching back to the kids that are coming through Bowie State right now. And so I want them to know that they have a place to learn and to grow, where I might have felt like I did not have certain things. It's up to me right now to create that space. So with Bowie State, it's the foundation of everything. And always going back home is important to me. So I love attending an HBCU.
I feel the same way having attended West Virginia State. I feel that HBCUs, they do more than just educate us.
Yeah.
You know, they nurture us and the people that we become. Prior to attending an HBCU, there's so much that we didn't learn about who we are and our heritage. And then when we go to these HBCUs, they pour into us in ways that we may not have received prior to coming on the yard.
Yeah.
And then when we leave, we kind of have that obligation and responsibility, no different than when we go out of the house. I'm sure your parents told you, hey, listen, you representing us.
Yeah. For sure.
My dad used to be like, I don't want nobody saying Brian's son. I got a name for the longest. I was Brian's son. And I'm sure you and your twin sister, shout out to her, I'm sure your parents told y'all, like, look, y'all represent us.
Always.
And then when you attend an HBCU, you have that same sense of responsibility. I represent Bowie State. And you can also pull from all of the greatness and richness that came from Bowie State. Yeah. Realizing you guys are the oldest HBCU in the state of Maryland.
We are.
And that's richness in and of itself. Yes. Many of our viewers and listeners may not have known that, but they know now courtesy of you. And then when you went to New York, you wasn't intimidated by the hustle and bustle that came with that.
You know, and it's one of those things, by being a communication major, I knew that I was going to get into journalism or work somewhere in the entertainment space. I didn't know directly that being the career that I have right now, being an agent, that's where I would land. But I knew some form or facet that I was going to be in the business. And so the next step for me was leaving Maryland Because when you're in the DMV area at the time back then, you had the BET. BET was still in DC. You have the local news stations and the radio stations, but I wanted more. And so wanting more meant I had to leave Maryland, and it was either go to LA, Atlanta, or New York. And so I wanted to make sure that I was still on the East Coast, because it's something about the East Coast vibe. So me going to New York made the most sense. And so I was ready to get in and hustle. I was like, I'm going in the music industry. I'm going in the film world. This is what I'm going to do. And it's time for me to leave home. But leaving home, Bowie shaped me for New York City. And I wasn't afraid walking any doors that were presented in front of me when I got to New York City.
Was there any barriers that you had to navigate once you came to New York, realizing that you're relocating to a new city? New York isn't necessarily the most inviting and warm place, but what I will say in New York, it may be difficult to form relationships initially, but once you have those relationships, then there's a level of sincerity and as it pertains to how those relationships are rooted in authenticity. Like, you'll have a friend for life. It may take you a while to make that friend, but once you make it, you have them for life. So how did you navigate that?
Yeah, so for me, I went straight into grad school after I graduated from undergrad. So, I went straight into the new school, and I got involved like an undergraduate would, because I was so young. I was 21. So for me, it was like, okay, now I'm in grad school, and you think about your master's program. Yeah, it's a lot of older people, but there was a lot of us that had just graduated from undergrad. So I think we had something in common, being so young and going to school, right after undergraduate. Also, too, if you know anything about the new school, it's a big liberal arts school right down the street from New York, NYU. And so we have also, the new school is known for their jazz program. And so I had a lot of friends that were in the film program, that was in Parsons. They were doing their thing. And so I loved entertainment. So naturally for me, it was like, okay, let's go ahead and get involved with some of the kids that are still in undergraduate. Like I said, I was 21. So you have your 19, your 20-year-olds, that was still my demographic of friends. And so it was easy for me to tap into people that way. I was able to transfer. I was working at Lord & Taylor, and I transferred my job from Maryland to the New York City flagship store. So then I got to meet people that way, because I was hustling on the shoe store, on the shoe floor, selling shoes, trying to put myself through grad school. And then too, I also was working on campus. And so I was able to meet people that way. But the next year after I got to the new school, my second year, I was able to land a job with Central Park Summer Stage. And so if you know anything about Central Park Summer Stage, it's been around for 30 plus years. And they produce so many programs in New York City and in all 5 boroughs, in Central Park as well. And so at 22, I was working at Central Park Summer Stage. That was my job. So I was really exposed to the arts and music very early on, simply because Bowie taught me one thing. We talk about HBCUs. Bowie teaches you how to network. HBCUs teach you how to network. I always tell young people, get involved very early on. Focus on, yes, your grades and things of that nature. But when you're at an HBCU, it's always a family reunion. So get involved, meet your classmates, network across. So that, for me, I took that same notion of what I learned. I was involved at Bowie. I was in student government. I was a dancer. I ran the radio program at Bowie State. And so for me, networking was easy. So I just took the same thing that I applied at Bowie, and I applied it to what I was doing in New York City. And so that's how I was able to get a job. That's how I was able to meet friends. So I would say the biggest piece of it, of course, is always the financial aspect of living in New York City. It's expensive. And I was super young, but I remember my father paid half of my rent and I paid the other half. So I had to come up with this additional $350 to pay the $700 rent. But I was like, I bought my car. I had insurance. I had things of that nature, but I was hustling. And so it's just the nature of who Anshia is. Everybody doesn't have that, but I'm just a natural born hustler. So yeah.
I literally just shared this with someone. New York is a training ground.
It is.
You want to come here and embrace the possibilities and find yourself in a room where the ceiling is unlimited, come to New York. Yeah. But understand and realize that also may come with a lower floor that may exist in other places, whether it's Maryland, the Carolinas, Georgia. You can have a job at a department store in Atlanta and say, I'm going to live 30 minutes outside of the city, and you might be doing okay. You're living a comfortable lifestyle. Yeah. If you have that same income in New York City, you may have to pick up a second job.
Yeah. Yeah, and so like I said, I was working at Lord and Taylor, but I was also working on campus in the student leadership development office, which was the office that programmed all the student activities. So I'm just thinking about now how all these things have shaped what I'm actually doing. But yeah, I had two jobs, working
Right.
two jobs and going to school full time.
So now you was able to navigate that, and then once you got your degree from the new school, what did you find yourself doing professionally?
Professionally, truthfully, I never really had a corporate job. I was interning at the label. So like I reminded you, I worked at Summer Stage. So I worked at Summer Stage for 6 years. So that was the job after college. I also, after I left interning for Def Jam in Motown, I started Briclyn. So Briclyn actually was born in 2007 in the month of March. And so I was working with the artists that I was kind of managing at the time. We were a management company, and I basically took what I learned from all the internships that I had, from Motown to Def Jam to TV One to Hidden Beach Records when Jill Scott was signed to the label. And I put everything that I learned into Briclyn. So truthfully, I didn't hop out there and get a corporate job. I was still working for Summer Stage. I was Summer Stage for 6 years. And then I transitioned over and started working for Mary J. Blige's nonprofit, her and Steve Stout's nonprofit Fawn. Once that nonprofit folded, I took my unemployment check, put it back into my business, and stopped working for people in 2011. And so I've been a full-time entrepreneur since. So my story wasn't one of jumping out of school into the corporate environment, but it was more so a situation of believing in myself and wanting to put the focus on my company, on the artists that I was working with and things of that nature. So I really have been doing this for 18 years as an entrepreneur and full-time since 2011.
Man. And was there any fear associated with that, whether from you or your parents?
Yeah, my parents. Oh my God, it was fear from the time that I moved to New York. My parents didn't understand, they're 9 to 5 workers. So for me, stability is what mattered to them. And now, at the time, social media wasn't big at all. People didn't have entertainment at their fingerprints or whatever the case may be. They didn't understand what an entrepreneur was. They knew what it was, but they didn't understand like how you gonna make money in what you're doing. They wanted me to have a regular 9 to 5 job and be comfortable. And I get it now. Like, trust me, I do. They wanted the best for me, but that wasn't my trajectory. That wasn't my path. And so for me, it was like, this is what I'm going to do. But I always say, like, for me, my favorite quote is faith as big as a mustard seed. You know what I mean? From the Bible. And for me, I carry that with me every single day. Yeah, I won't say I was fearful, but I knew that I had to hustle. It goes back to that hustle mentality. So even if I was doing the entrepreneur thing, I had my little side jobs. I had Summer Stage, I was doing what I needed to do to get by. But at the same time, I can't really say I was ever fearful. And when I felt like fear was stepping in, then I was like, okay, well, we got to switch and pivot a little bit and do this over there. But meanwhile, still focusing on the business, how I scale the business, how I grow the business, the type of clientele I work with, and things of that nature. So my parents here, they were fearful because they didn't see it at first. Nobody sees your vision first except for you. You got to like teach people how to see the vision. And over time, it was about how the work that I was doing, the clients that I was working with. Then I can remember to the day when I felt like my parents finally got it. And that was several years later after I started the business. But yeah, they always wanted me just to be comfortable and have stability, as any parent would, right? But for me, I wasn't fearful. I was like, if I fail, I fail. At least I tried failing.
Right.
But I'm going to pivot to something else that I need to do to make sure that I'm always going to make it.
We have that in common. I think we all, as entrepreneurs, we had to develop that faith. And even if we have faith, we had to continue to restore that faith.
Restore
And
it daily.
one of the things that I share with other entrepreneurs is, God gave you the vision. So when we go to the eye doctor, we all have different prescriptions.
Right.
And the prescription that I have allows me to see my vision. But the people around me, they may have a different prescription.
Yeah.
And oftentimes people believe what they can see. And like you said, without social media, without something tangible that people could look at and say, oh, I see what she's doing. But for you to just tell them, oh, I'm making headway, but they don't necessarily see it.
I'll see it. Yeah.
Then now you're going to have to kind of offset that with something that continues to restore that faith.
Yeah.
We've all been there. And it can be frustrating at times because these are the people that are closest to us. We want them to see and believe in what it is we're doing. But to your earlier point, they have our best interest in mind and they want to protect us. And sometimes that includes protecting us from ourselves, especially when we're younger.
Yes. Yeah. Cause I was young. You got to think I started Briclyn at 23.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to be 42.
Wow. No, you lying. I thought you was 32. Stop playing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Another thing that I share with people is, to your earlier point, we have to find ways to identify oxygen supplies.
Yeah.
If that's a side hustle, if that's some other form of employment, because what we don't want to do is say, I'm going to go scuba diving with no oxygen and find ourselves where we have a near-death experience. We're couch surfing. We're living out of cars, whatever the case may be. That's enough to break your spirit to say, you don't want to do this anymore. You have to find a way to manage what it is you want to see and to become a reality. Sometimes your passion can't initially be monetized. Right. You have to find a way to manage that process.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So now, was Briclyn, I know you're a booking agent now, but early on, was it a management company and booking agency?
No, in the very beginning, it was a management company. I wanted to be a manager. I was a young person managing artists, and I just had a burnout. And I decided that I remember the day that Eric Roberson asked, we were having a team meeting. And so he was like, I need some help in this space. Does anybody want to help? And I was like, I will help. I will become like your second booking agent or whatever that looks like, or booking team person. And like I said, very early on, I was managing artists that were and the jazz students at the new school. And so I was cold calling venues and all the things and doing managerial stuff. But what I realized and some of the things that I was doing, like cold calling venues, I was basically an agent, not knowing or calling myself an agent. And so I realized, like, I like this. It's not too much of a heavy lift. I don't have to put money into artists, because I tell you one thing I was doing that I probably shouldn't have been doing was putting my student loan money that I would get from my refund check into my business. Well, of course, I have to do that, but into my artists. And I said, I don't want to do that anymore. So I need to get a commission back, of course. But I just got burned out on the management side. So I decided to move into a shift, because Eric had then presented this opportunity for me to become one of his booking people on his team. And so around 2012, I made the shift to turn Briclyn into a booking agency. And so from 2007 to 2012, we were a management company. That's what we did, managing every intricate detail of an artist. But by 2012, I had a shift, and I said, I really like just the agent side of this. And so I'm pretty good with numbers. I'm pretty good with contracts, reading contracts. You would think that I'm a lawyer. I kind of operate in that sense too. I protect my clients. But it's been the best shift for me. And I really do love the agency side of what I'm able to do. And a lot of people do think that I'm a manager, but it's only because for so long I was doing that. But no, we're not a management company now, but in the very beginning, we were a management company.
We share that in common as well, because when I first started in the business of music, that's what I wanted to do. Yes. And that came as a result of a conversation that I had with somebody.
Yes.
And she had mentioned that her boyfriend, he was a manager. And when I say I knew nothing about the business at all, I was always intrigued by the business. But when she said that he's a manager, I was like, what do they do? And then based on my previous employment history, I was like, you know what? I think I could do that.
Yes.
But I learned, I'm sure similar to yourself, like, okay, I'm pouring money into these artists, and I'm only getting a percentage of what they're getting, and they're all broke. So how am I generating any income? I quickly pivoted to doing more A&R stuff, consulting, things of that nature.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you had that light bulb moment as well. Like if I can associate myself with something that's generating revenue, I too can get paid.
Yes. No, I mean, that was the burnout. The burnout was, I'm investing more than I am making back. I want my return on investment, but the return on investment, the ROI is not coming soon or fast enough for me. And so it's like, I'm doing all this work, but I'm not seeing the money return back into my account. And so for me, it was like, I don't need to put up with the headache of artists. So for me, it was like, okay, booking, like, All I'm doing is trying to get opportunities. And then I don't have to worry about the flights and the hotels. That's for road management. I don't have to worry about the wardrobe. That's for the stylists and the managers. I don't have to worry about all the things that a manager has to do. All I have to do is simply book the artist, take my commission, and then turn it over to the other parts of the teams to advance it. So I was like, I can do this. This is good. And when you work with independent artists, a lot of times you're kind of playing all the roles. But I just at a point where I was just like, no, I'm getting older. Like this is tiring, and it's not like I'm working with Beyonce type clients. So
Right. Right.
the agency lifestyle is a good thing for me.
Now, it started with Eric Roberson, and he has a storied career in music. So then it evolved to other artists on your roster, correct?
Correct. Yes. I was working with other artists prior to Eric. So Eric actually was probably like the fourth artist that I had. Like I had some other independent artists that were doing pretty well back in the day. And then like I said, I was working at Summer Stage. So I had the background of working in music festivals, So from there, like I was working on the writers, the production writers, advancing shows, things of emceeing shows, things of that nature. But I would say Eric was probably the biggest name artist I had at that time. And then just by the type of work that my team and I do over time and over the years, people have gravitated to that. And so I've been able to work with some really amazing people, some people that are not on my roster anymore that you would know their names. But we have about 4 other clients that we work with. And so they're doing pretty well for themselves. One of our clients just won a Grammy this year and an NAACP award and a Tony. And so he's on his way to being—
Who's that?
Adam Blackstone.
Okay.
He won a Grammy for Alicia Keys' Hell's Kitchen, but he works with the best of the best in the industry. He's Rihanna's music director, the Super Bowl where Rihanna announced her pregnancy. He was the guy with the bass. He's the music director for her. So he's the guy that you see doing the Super Bowl and things of that nature. So he does a lot. He keeps us pretty busy. But he's also another big name draw for us. And then Mumu Fresh, she's one of our clients. She has like 1.2 million views on NPR's Tiny Desk. So we have some really, really dope clients, and most of them are Grammy nominated at this point. So it really, I always say thanks to Eric, it opened up the possibilities of what I could do, because he really took me under his wing as my big brother and really even showed me more things that I thought I knew. I learned even more from Eric and his parents, and even Sean, his wife. That's my big sister Soror. Just watching them and how they do their business, it was some of the things that I could take back and apply to Briclyn. And so Eric actually opened the door really for me, even though I was already exposed in the industry. It was because of him that I was like really ready to step forward and start booking other artists outside of Eric too.
I know you glossed over that, but those are like huge milestones to say the least. He was at the Super Bowl and Rihanna. I'm like, yo, that's why I was like, hold on, what's his name? I want to make sure that my viewers and listeners catch all of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Man.
We have some really, really dope entertainers on our roster, So I'm really proud of all of them.
Right. But you know what? But you're attracting dopeness because you're dope.
Thank you, Eric.
Like is attracted to like. And no one is going to have you operating in that capacity if you're not operating at a high level, because I know the business better than maybe some of our viewers and listeners, but a lot of artists make their money on the road.
On the road, yes.
And that's their bread and butter.
Yes.
And if you are responsible for that component of their career,
I am.
Then that takes a level of trust that is on a whole nother level. Like, yo, they are why I eat. So I'm eating because of her.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm glad you say that, because when I speak to kids about what a booking agent does, it's not the most popular job. You really wouldn't know. But I always try to explain, what's your last concert you've been to? How do you think that concert was created? How did you know about buying that ticket? How do you know the people that got the people on the stage, the wardrobe? I break down the roles of where it starts. It all starts, of course, with the artist and their talent. But it also, sometimes my clients don't know all the buyers, or sometimes I'm pitching opportunities too. It's not always people coming to me because they think I have dope clients. It's because I also believe enough in my clients that I'm going to go and use my resources that I've gained over all these years and say, my client deserves to be on this festival. So I always tell young people, think about the last concert. So when the things that I say to them, when they go to their next concert, they're going to be like, wow, the lighting person, the sound person, the agent. Well, the agent is the first person to initiate that contract, or the manager to say, my client is coming here. Now we're negotiating money. Now we're negotiating itineraries. We're doing it all before you guys even see the artist. But that starts with a business person, an executive, or someone behind the artist that pushed that artist to get on that stage. And so all of it goes hand in hand, but we are the people that you typically never see. I always say I'm a bona fide salesperson. I'm always around. You just don't always know who I am. And I like that. I like that. Now, when I need to show up and speak, I'll show up and speak. But it is the agent that initiates these deals for the artist to take that stage. And so, like I said, it's not always people coming to me to book my clients. Sometimes it's me coming to buyers to present the package that I have, because I have some really, really dope clients. So I appreciate you saying that.
Absolutely. Look, we're here to give all the flowers to people like you, because a lot of people, they don't necessarily get the shine that they deserve.
Sure.
And I want our viewers and listeners to understand and realize that there's a lot of things that you can find yourself doing professionally that you may or may not be aware of. And I feel as though these conversations help them crystallize that in a way, and they feel like that's obtainable. If they can see people or hear people who looks and sounds like themselves, then I know that what that did for me. When I moved to the New York metropolitan area and I began to see other people that I can identify with, and these are people that you may see on television. These are the people that are responsible for these big artists. Growing up in West Virginia, I remember one of my friends was like, oh yeah, my cousin knows Mary J. Blige. And because I lived in West Virginia, I was like, that's a whole lie. There's no way she knows Mary. But being in the business, I'm like, oh, that's completely conceivable.
Yeah.
And it's really a matter of exposing people to people like you and getting them to understand. You don't necessarily, if you enjoy music, it's called the music business. Yes. If you have a business mind, there's a multitude of jobs you can find yourself doing.
Yeah.
And being in booking agents is one of them.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
This episode of Prepare for Takeoff is brought to you in part by Riverside, the platform that I trust to record studio quality podcasts right from my laptop. With Riverside, I get crystal clear audio and 4K video. Plus, it's super easy to use. Whether you're a beginner or a pro, Riverside helps your podcast sound amazing. Try it out for yourself. Click the affiliate link in our show notes and start recording like a pro with Riverside. Viewers and listeners listening and watching saying, I want to do what she's doing. What would be some tips you would give them on how to segue into the business? Through an internship, or what do you think would be a good starting point?
Absolutely. I mean, especially for younger people, and not even just for younger people, because you can be older and still get an internship. I try to tell my 40 plus crew, it's never too late, right? Mm-hmm. But I would say internship first, especially for the younger viewerships and things of that nature. But also too, be out here networking, showing up at events that might be in your local cities, your local towns, reaching out. We're pretty accessible. You know, if you can't get me, you can get somebody on my team that can say, hey, I have some questions about what you guys do. You know, I think a lot of times coming out of COVID, a lot of us opened up our resources so that people could have conversations with us, which I'm open to, because each teach one. Everybody has to teach somebody. We're all learning. So for one, I would just say internships. I would say get out there and network. Get out there and create conversations with people. Don't just reach out to people because you want to use them for something, but build relationships. Everything about what we do in life is about building a relationship. And just ask questions, but you got to be out there networking. You got to show up at things that might be in your town. If you're in a small town like where I'm from, there's also, I always say all small municipalities have events. Especially now, all municipalities have concerts, they have festivals. It might be something in a small town, if not the next town over. But make yourself visible, make yourself known. And then too, I would say, there's a lot of different conferences out here that people can go to. Start doing researching like the Music Biz Conference. If that's something you want to get into, Polestar, if you want to be an agent, Polestar would be a great platform to start to learn about, because you can go just as a general member. If you want to get involved with the Recording Academy, people think that the Grammys is just the Recording Academy. But no, the Grammys is just one night. The Recording Academy is actual nonprofit. So the biggest piece of this is network, is research, intern, ask questions, but build relationships, make sure they're genuine relationships. And yeah, that's really honestly some of the advice that I have for people that are really trying to get into the business. And reach out to Briclyn. Our contact information is on our website. So we'll be happy to answer anybody's questions or help them lead in the right direction.
I always say, and a lot of what you mentioned is, things that I share with people is the importance of creating your own opportunities. Be proactive, not reactive.
Exactly.
And you have to sometimes create your own opportunity. If there's a job you're looking for, you may have to create it for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I created Briclyn. It was a management company, but I just remember leaving the labels when I was an intern and saying, well, if they're not going to hire me, I'm going to go create my company, which is why Briclyn was started. I was coming out of grad school, and at the time, a lot of layoffs were happening at the labels. And so I wasn't able to get a job there, which is, I'm so thankful for Summer Stage because I had an opportunity to still work in music. But I created a company out of nothing. At 23 years old, but also too, I did a lot of research. Things are even a lot more at your fingertips now. Google USA, Google University is popular. YouTube University. There's so many things out there now for people. Whereas in 2007, I literally was still just reading The Music Business by Donald Passaman, like the book. There wasn't as many things out there to tell you what an agent was. And honestly, looking at who an agent was back then was a bunch of white men. Wasn't
Right.
as many Black women in this space like it is right now. And we still have a long way to go because you don't see as many Black women at the major agencies. And so when I changed over into being an agent, it was like, now I want to create this opportunity for other young women to come behind me, other young men to come behind me, and I can teach them what an independent agent does. Because a lot of times I just recently just had an artist who signed to a major agency, one of the powerhouses. She's doing good on the film side, but she's very upset with them on the music side, and which is why she reached out to my company to represent her on the music side. Because we hustle, we're boutique, we can do that. Like that HBCU, we nurture you,
There you go.
So all of those different things, make yourself accessible, but make yourself accessible, but also too, don't just sit at home and read a book. Just be out here networking as much as possible.
We definitely are on our hustle. We grind all the time, and it's very key in this business to understand the importance of creating a network that allows you to increase your net worth.
Your net worth, exactly.
And one of the ways that allows us to inherit those opportunities is the D9. As I mentioned,
yes.
You're a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So talk to me about the impact of being in a sorority and how that allows you to navigate and create some of these relationships that you may not otherwise be able to create.
Oh my God. I mean, truthfully, I love being a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. It just increased my community. Sisterhood to me is important. Friendships are important. No, I didn't go in looking for friendships, but you gain that when you get your line sisters. And so for me, it was like having the best of both worlds. I have line sisters I'm extremely close to, but it opened up another window. I thought I was already exposed to a lot of different communities, but being a member of Delta Sigma Theta has opened up another world for me where I'm able to use some of my skills and my talents to also elevate different platforms within the sorority. It's given me opportunities to travel. It's given me opportunities to book artists for national conventions and regional conventions. Like now I'm utilizing my skills because Delta is allowing me to do so. I'm meeting people all over the world, not just in my own backyard of Northern Virginia or in New Jersey where I used to live at. I'm meeting women all over the country and building network with them. And also too, some of the opportunities have afforded me to become paid during the pandemic. I was able to be hired as a contractor to produce some of their virtual galas for not just my sorority, but Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated too. And so people started to find out what my company does and the services that we provide. But it's because I'm within that network that has opened up other doors and opportunities for me. And I always say, be good to Delta and she will be good to you. And Delta has been good to me, but increasing the footprint of my network has been a blessing through the sorority. So, I mean, I love it. Just recently, we had produced my chapter's first annual block party. And it's so funny because I had another member of my chapter call and say, well, who was the logistics person that helped you guys pull that off? And I was like, what logistics person? That was me. And
That was
my
me.
co-chair that, you know, we put our skills combined. She's an event planner. I'm a producer / booking agent. We utilized our skills in our committee and we were able to pull this event off. And now it's going to be a second annual coming back. And so, you know, through Delta has really been good to me, allowing me to use my skills to grow, but also to meet some and build some amazing friendships and sisterhood that, you know, I love to this day. So yeah, it's been great being a member of the sorority.
I feel as though when you're in a fraternity, when you're in a sorority, these become like family members. They become an extension of your nuclear family.
Yeah, my line sister is my son's godmother.
Right. So if you meet somebody, and I tell people who aren't Greek, and I try to crystallize it in a way that they can wrap their head around. I said, imagine going to a city, and every time you meet somebody, you come to find out they're an extended family member.
Yeah.
I said, that's what it's like to be in a fraternity. You go to LA, somebody you've never met, they become an extended family member because you're probably going to know somebody that they know. No different than when you meet a family member at a family cookout or just out and about. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Your Aunt June's niece? And now instantly you have that connection with them. To elevate that to an even higher level. Sometimes with our family, they may not necessarily be tapped into the things that we're tapped in. Everybody in the family doesn't elevate. But it seems as though a lot of individuals in the sorority and fraternity world, they are tapped in with the understanding that they represent the organization. So they have to be leaders in the community. So you'll find more people who lead by example in the D9. More so than you will even in your own family.
In your own family,
You can surround yourself by that and become force multipliers. I say to people I've heard, and this isn't something that I created as far as the saying, but I've seen it somewhere. It may have been on Instagram. I'm always checking out the reels to get that nourishment. Nothing is ratchet, but nonetheless.
I mean, it's our news.
It's really news.
Worthy,
Right. But one of the things that I've seen on Shia is the fact that white people, they may have privilege, but as Black folk, we have relationships.
Oh my God, yes. That's so good.
Right.
Yes.
And we can get to the same destination. We're just going to take a different path.
Exactly.
That's what we're all about. We want to show people these pathways into how they can enter that realm of Black excellence. Mm-hmm. And you're the embodiment of that. And I'm so glad that you was able to give us so much of your time. Before we let you go, I wanted to give you the opportunity to leave our viewers and listeners with 3 things that you feel will help them prepare for takeoff.
Preparing for takeoff. Just remember this. No means next opportunity. Also, too, faith is big as a mustard seed. You got to carry faith in the entrepreneurial world. Trust me, you have to. And also, too, seize every moment, seize every opportunity. Get out there and learn. Get out there and have conversations with people. Get out there and network, because your network is truly your net worth, as you mentioned before. So those are 3 things. And 2, if you ever need someone to talk to, feel free to reach out to Briclyn Entertainment. Check out all the things we're doing. I also want to just highlight one thing, my nonprofit, Project Hygiene. If you have a family that's in need of toiletries, young people, please reach out to Project Hygiene. But I would say seize the moment. No equals next opportunity. And faith as big as a mustard seed, because you can do anything if you truly believe in yourself and have faith.
Now, see, I knew all the things you did, but I didn't know that you had bars as well.
Well, you know, I work with artists, so every single day I'm listening to a song or whatever the case may be, you know.
Right.
My past life, I was like a poet, so yeah.
Okay, I see. I wasn't that far off. I'm like, well, she got bars. No is next opportunity. I'm like, I have to write that down. No means next opportunity. And I know you had mentioned, reach out to us for Briclyn Entertainment. Like, what's the best way to reach out to you? Website, IG, social media, whatever you feel comfortable sharing with our viewers and listeners.
You have a website, Briclyn ENT or BriclynEntertainment.com. You can follow us on all the social media platforms, you know, also on LinkedIn. Like, we're big on LinkedIn. You know, I'm a professional. Yes, we work in the industry, but I'm a professional. You know, I like to talk to the best of the best because we're meeting with a lot of different type of companies, but LinkedIn, Briclyn Entertainment, Instagram, Facebook, Threads at Briclyn ENT. And if you visit our website, all of our contact information is listed as well. And you'll be able to email us at info@briclynent.com. Okay.
Anshia, thanks for spending so much time with us. Please allow us to give you, your much-deserved virtual flowers.
Thank you, Terry.
You've earned them. You've been on your grind for an extended period of time. I've been able to watch your ascend, and now our viewers and listeners have been privy to, what that ascend has consisted of. So I must continue success to you and wanted to thank you. And also I wanted to thank our viewers and listeners, whether you're watching us on YouTube or you're watching us on Spotify or you're listening to us on Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, Audible, iHeart, or Pandora. As you know, every Wednesday, we're going to continue to bring you proven professionals or rising entrepreneurs. And all of these conversations, just like this one, will help you prepare for takeoff. Anshia, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.